There is another huge pressure that I've never talked about on my channel yet, but this pressure can cause women not to have children. Now, people might think that this is really shallow and really vain, but I think it's really a real thing. Welcome to Wife Without Kids. I'm Hannah. This channel is all about building a supportive and non-judgmental community for people like you who have made the choice to not have any children. We tend to get a lot of pressure to become parents, especially if you're a female. In this video, I'm going to talk about a couple of these different types of pressures that we tend to feel, and does this pressure actually make us not want to have kids? When we make the choice to not have any children, we start to be seen as someone who is different, and this kind of different isn't always a good different. As human beings, there are all sorts of expectations that are put on us. These expectations come from various places. They can come from our cultural backgrounds, religion, society, personal value systems. Here's a question. When you were younger, did you ever think that you had a choice to become a parent or not? Or did you just assume you had to be a parent? Most of us would probably say we just assumed we would be a parent because the dialogue about not being a parent doesn't usually enter into conversations, especially when you're growing up. Here's where I think that first pressure actually starts. We tend to emulate the things that we see growing up. And most see motherhood or becoming a parent as part of your identity. We didn't sit down and have a conversation with our parents where they told us, hey, you know what? You can choose to be child-free or you can choose to become a parent. Either is a good option. And what we see growing up is that the females in our culture become moms. If we see that every female in our family circle is becoming a mom, we assume that's what we're going to do someday as well, regardless of whether or not we want to be a parent. For many people, being a parent is their identity. That's what they identify as. And there's nothing wrong with identifying yourself as a parent, but that doesn't identify who you are as an entire whole picture. One thing I've often noticed is when you don't have kids and you meet somebody for the first time, what do you tell that individual about yourself? Or what's one of the first questions that they ask you? They ask you, what do you do? What is your job title? They identify you with your job. That's who you are as a person. That's not the entirety of who you are, but it's a part of who you are. When I've been introduced to moms who are stay-at-home moms specifically, that's typically how they identify themselves. They say, hi, my name is so-and-so and I'm a stay-at-home mom. Again, there's nothing wrong with being a stay-at-home mom or identifying as a mom. But people's identity is so much greater than just the job that they do. Because there is so much pressure to identify as a parent, when you aren't a parent, it's almost like something's missing or there's something wrong with you or you've somehow made the wrong choice, when in fact, you've just made a different choice. Having kids is part of someone's identity. It's not their entire identity. Choosing not to have kids is only part of your identity. It's not your entire identity either. There are probably 10, 20, 30, or 100 different things that make up who we are as a person. However, because so much emphasis has been placed on being a parent in our society, we see it as being the all-encompassing characteristic of an individual. So if you don't have that characteristic of being a parent, well, who are you? What are you doing with life? What are you contributing to the world if you're not a parent? You're obviously doing something wrong, right? That's pressure number one. Now, let's just be honest about something. The mom is typically the primary caregiver of the children. That's just the way it tends to work out. The dad is kind of the fun parent. Dads, I know you help too. But typically in society, women do more than 50% of their fair share in raising kids, even if they work outside the home. And that is a lot of pressure. Being a parent is a super difficult job. And if you aren't sure that you actually want kids, if you have children, knowing that you will probably be the primary caregiver of those children and you will be doing most of the work, and yes, of course it comes with rewards, I'm not saying it doesn't. That is a lot of pressure to put on yourself when you aren't even sure that you want to be a parent. There is another huge pressure that I've never talked about on my channel yet, but this pressure can cause women not to have children. Now, people might think that this is really shallow and really vain, but I think it's really a real thing. It's the huge pressure of how your body will change if you have kids. Now, I want to divide this into two separate categories because there's kind of two different things that can happen here. One, you can have a pre-existing medical condition that can make it very challenging either to get pregnant, or you may be putting yourself or the baby at risk because of the added pressure on your body. Sometimes people are just really scared of the pain that's involved in pregnancy and childbirth. And sometimes women get really worried about the physical changes that happen to their body as a result of being pregnant and giving birth to a baby. Self-esteem and how we view our bodies is a huge deal to women. Most women at some point in their lives have struggled with the way their body looks. And for some women, the idea of getting pregnant and having your body change even more when you don't like yourself for how you are right now is completely overwhelming. I'm not going to make the assumption that pregnancy changes every woman's body in a negative way. From the feedback I've gotten from my friends and family, pregnancy does change your body, and it takes a lot to get used to the new body that you have after pregnancy. It's my thought that if you don't love and accept your body the way you look before pregnancy, after pregnancy, that might be more of a challenge. I have had a lot of friends that have had babies, like pretty much all my friends have had babies except one or two. And I have only ever had one of my friends tell me that she loved her post-pregnancy body better than her pre-pregnancy body. And that's amazing. I'm so glad that she felt that way. One of the things I actually do love about society that is different from when I was a kid, post-pregnancy bodies are being more accepted and celebrated. This idea that you have to fit back into your post-pregnancy jeans and be this tiny little person, even though you've had babies and your body has done this amazing thing, that way of thinking isn't so prominent anymore. And I think that's really important. There has been way too much emphasis on body size and weight, when in fact I think we should be focused on being healthy, and that's more important. And that's gonna look different on every woman. Another pressure that people often feel, if you're hesitant to have children, you know that some of your relationships with people that you care about and you love are going to change. Parenthood is great on a lot of people, but it doesn't fit everybody. Like we said, people have expectations for you to do certain things in your life, and often that can be to have children or to give your parents grandkids. When you make the choice to not have kids, there's gonna be a little bit of tension that tends to crop up. One of the reasons is because that other individual has an expectation for you and you haven't filled that expectation that they wanted you to fill. Broken expectations causes that person in your life to display an emotion, and typically these emotions are not positive. They're typically anger, frustration, resentment, and of course the biggest one, disappointment. People are disappointed in you because you aren't having kids. People don't always see child-free as being the right choice. Now you might be thinking, who cares? This is my decision to make. Which is true, it is your decision to make. However, everything we do tends to affect other people. To a point. This doesn't mean that you can't choose to be child-free, because it is your choice and you can do whatever it is that you want to do with regards to having children or not having children. How the other person chooses to react to your choice to be child-free isn't something you can do anything about, and it's not your responsibility to do anything about it. Just like we have a choice whether or not we want to have kids, they have a choice in how they respond to the fact that you are choosing not to have kids. It can be a really challenging thing to navigate relationships with people sometimes, especially if you feel that they are disappointed in your choice. At the end of the day, you have to make the decision that is right for you, and that might be not having kids and disappointing someone. Having kids is such a personal choice, and it should come from the place of really wanting to be a parent. While you may feel pressured to have kids, it is never a reason to have children. Being child-free has always been an option, and I think the more we talk about this, the more people realize, hey, I have a choice. I don't have to be a parent. There's nothing wrong with being a parent, but there's nothing wrong with choosing not to be a parent. Maybe nobody talked to you about child-free being a choice when you were younger, but now that you know, you get to go and tell other people that child-free is a choice. I think it can be so helpful to get advice and perspective from people who are a little bit older and wiser than we are, and from those who have a bit more life experience than we do. If you'd like to know what a couple over the age of 50 thinks about their choice to live child-free, go ahead and click this video right here. And remember, you are never alone.